Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first contentful session, or not the first contentful session, but the first track of the Community Week. We're going to talk about encryption here today. And to do that, we have a wonderful panel, but I need to get some things out of the way before we get there. First, there is interpretation in French and Spanish. If you listen to me in English, then you can go to the French or Spanish translation channel, but you first have to go back to the event panel and log in to the appropriate feed. There's also live captioning available. Also in two languages, Spanish and French. And with that, we hope to serve a lot of you to make this more understandable. Those live feeds, the translation and the captioning is something that we could not have done without two sponsors, Amazon and Flectoptics. And I would like to thank them for that. We're engaging in discussion with people all over the globe today. These are our friends. Some of them speak the same language. Some of them will not speak the same language natively as we do. And the expectation is that we engage with each other with respect and, of course, in a responsible fashion. So the Internet Code of Conduct applies today. On the right-hand side of this panel, you can see a chat area. You can put comments there, and you can put your questions there, and you can do that in the three languages that we have these sessions in: English, French, and Spanish. When you ask a question, put in your first name and then also the country where you're from, so that we get an idea of the vibrance of our community. And when we give you the mic, please introduce yourself with your name and your affiliation, and give a word that comes to mind when thinking about the Internet Society in the chat, that is. We're recording this session, and the recording will be made available on the platform. That, I believe, includes also what you put on the chat. So be aware of that. And if you are on social media, then please use the hashtag CommunityWeek21 during this event. We're going to talk about encryption today. And I wanted to introduce that topic for a moment. You can zoom out on the big slide so that I can show that. So talking about encryption today, encryption is a part of us as a collective talking about a stronger internet. And what is encryption? Why does it matter? Well, encryption is a process of scrambling or enciphering data so that it only can be read by somebody who can return it to its original state by decryption. And that is meant, it's a method to secure data. It's a method to make sure that only those who have business accessing the information can actually access it. It's a bunch of mathematical processes and so on and so forth. End-to-end encryption is any form of encrypted data in transit, and in transit means that we're sending it over the wire, in which only the sender and the intended recipient, so not even the provider that is giving you the service, can read a message. That's of huge importance. It is of huge importance because almost any sector in our digital economy relies on encryption. Encryption in the form of protecting privacy when data is stored locally, and many rely on end-to-end encryption. There's many examples, and they're listed here. Companies for their financial and intellectual property, critical infrastructure such as energy, water, and transportation. You don't want, somebody to open bridges, so you need to make sure that that type of transport is protected by encryption system. Financial systems. Whenever you bank on the internet or do a payment, encryption is used. Healthcare, private data must be held privately, of course. And then there is, of course, the law enforcement and military that use encryption in their operational activities and communications. Encryption is vital. It's vital for communities to do their work. Journalists, the LGBT plus community, activists, domestic violence survivors, they all rely on encryption to remain safe when being on the internet. So, what's the problem? Well, encryption is under threat all over the globe. Governments and some other organizations are attempting to weaken or undermine the strong encryption. The argument usually is we can see so much less of the communications that we were used to. Please open that up again. That's called the going dark argument. And often they demand for law enforcement. Often they demand ways for law enforcement, for instance, to get access to end-to-end encrypted information. And they do that by requiring a backdoor, by saying you have to provide mechanisms by which a law enforcement can open up this communication, like handing somebody a key to the communication. Technically, that is impossible. There is no way that you can design or manage a system safely that would achieve that. Because criminals will in the end discover and use the same way to get in. And bad guys will just use other types of encryption to communicate. They can build their own encryption systems. And actually, criminals do that all the time. And if you look at the maps over here, then what you see is several different pictures from several different communities that are dealing with this. Where there are hotspots about the use of encryption, where there are proposals in law, there are ideas floating around to build backdoors or to put a threat to encryption. And that, my dear friends, that is what we're going to talk about. We are an advocate for strong encryption. And our chapters, our community, is actually actively fighting back to the threats of strong encryption. In 2020, we launched in a collaborative fashion with other organizations, among which Global Partners Digital, the Global Encryption Coalition. Oh yeah, and CDT was part of that too, of course. And we promote and defend encryption in key countries and in the multilateral fora where encryption is under threat. And many of our chapters contribute in this global encryption coalition. And a few weeks ago, on the 21st of October, the coalition held its first global encryption day, with over 70% events worldwide, and we actually reached millions of users. We being us, being our community, because you were all involved with this. As I said, our community's voice helps to protect strong encryption from threats, and every voice is vital. And what we did today is we bring together a couple of those voices. We have Theorose Elikplim from Ghana, She is a lecturer at the Faculty of Journalism and Media Studies at the Ghana Institute of Journalism. And she wrote a paper on examining how Ghanaian journalists understand encryption and apply it to their work, and then went further. She actually started to give courses because she wanted to put her money to her mouth. And the quote that I took from her somewhere is that she said, "I really want to use the knowledge that I gained to make a change. I didn't just want to be a part of the numbers who do training and just go home with a certificate without doing anything." We have José Legatheaux. He's a retired full professor at the Nova Lisbon University, and he is one of the pioneers of the Portuguese internet, and one of the pioneers of the Portuguese chapter. We helped establish, and he has been the president of the chapter from 2017 till 2021. In a recent blog, the background is here that José helped to set up a petition to counter a European proposal. And in a recent blog, he said, and that's my favorite quote, "We had to respond to the Commission's positions because it's horrifying." Finally, we have Frédéric Taes, who is currently the president of the Belgium chapter of the Internet Society. And they are engaged in an advocacy campaign basically against the data retention legislation, which threatens and undermines encryption. My favorite quote when we were preparing for this panel was that he said that, and that is completely in the spirit of the Internet Society, of course, we are a small world, a big family, and the Internet is connecting us all together. And with that, I have asked all our panelists to give us a 5-minute description of what it is that they do and why it is that they do what they do. And without further ado, I would like to ask Theorose to start with that and tell us, Ghana, journalist training, what is it that you did? And can you tell us a little bit about your personal motivation?
Right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from where you're connecting. It's nice to be here. My name is Theorose Elikplim. I'm currently the chair for communication for ISO Ghana chapter. And yes, of course, I've done quite some few things, but it still be unfair to say I did it alone. Of course, I work together with my chapter, and we have identified that usually there is, in terms of encryption, or even to say that in terms of security and privacy, there have been a lot of gaps that we identify within Ghana. We notice mostly that when you go onto social media platforms, or even when you talk to the youth, they are quick to give out their passwords. They are quick to share sensitive information online. So we started by organizing programs in senior high school that we call the Next Gen, a cut across, and just right into the past few weeks. On the 21st of October, we had a nationwide encryption program where we organize encryption education, or let's say literacy, in various senior high schools. We did that in every region, and we really focused on taking them through what encryption itself is, what are some of the key challenges that are mostly faced by the youth. We spoke extensively on privacy and security, because those are the key foundation of encryption. Those are the backbone, what encryption is built upon. We try as much as possible to break it down in a layman's voice to them. Now, what I usually experience is that when people are talking about encryption, it's it mostly come across as technical. So the word is too big. What does it mean? Do I have to have a technical background? What exactly does that mean? So we try as a chapter to find easy way of making them understand what it is and how they can apply that without having it to make it look big. And it was quite good, and it's great that we identify the threat that we are seeing, or what people are doing that are not right. And again, I have had my own personal experience where I'm taking this encryption, but also personal. Also many times that I have to send wrong emails. I think even for this community call, I have to send the wrong information to somebody else, and the person has to draw my attention to it. And that has been the trend. And again, as a journalist during the pandemic, I've realized extensively that we share a lot of sensitive information to our correspondent. We try to talk to people and share things that on a normal basis shouldn't be in the eye of everyone. And it mostly happens to just fall in the wrong hands, or mostly just happen to be intercepted by hackers or anyone else. So then how do we keep people's lives safe? Because if we are fighting for human rights and we are fighting for safety online, then we have to make sure that the information and whatever we are sending across is also wrapped up in a nicer way. So of course, we take the literacy key very seriously. We try as much as possible to play the role of advocacy, right? Where we try the chapter. When I say we, I'm talking about myself and the chapter, Internet Society chapter. We try as much as possible to do advocacy. So we build relation or partnership with other organizations, and we try to organize webinars and events on the topic. Just last 2 weeks, sort of, we had some programs on cybersecurity, which I think is also key when we are talking about encryption, because again, I did establish that on security. We try to organize partnership, to organize programs and events, so that in our little area, we are doing the work of advocacy. So this has been the trend in Ghana. I mean, this is not the end, and we are coming up with more events. But for now, this is an overview of what we've done, the problem we've identified, the solutions that we have provided, and of course, what we hope to do as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. That also already touched a little bit on the how, but we'll continue on that a little bit later. Jose, may I give you the floor?
Okay, fine, thank you. Hello, my name is José Legatheaux, and I was up to some months ago the president of the Portuguese chapter, and I'm still a member of the chapter and work in close cooperation with the current board. I am going to speak on the Pro-Encryption Campaign our chapter is running since the beginning of this year. This campaign is also being run with the help of many other ISOC chapters, namely in Europe. Well, I will start by the beginning. And the beginning is the fact that the European Commission published a note at the end of last year, where it was stated that they intended to regulate the use of encryption with the goal of, when mandated by judges, police authorities would be entitled to access user communication supported by internet platforms, or encrypted communications of internet users. And that was horrifying, as Olaf told before. And the main problem with the Commission intentions is European laws will become national laws in all countries, European countries that belong to the European Union. So the board of ISOC Portugal, the chapter decided to start an awareness campaign on the perils of these intentions, first at national level, and after, as Portugal was the coordinating country of the EU Council during the first semester of the current year. For those that are not aware of the European Union way of working, is each semester a different country is the coordinator of the body of the prime ministers. And we intended to go to the political side of things, because, well, the members of the parliament who who are going at the end of the day to make or not set the regulation. And why did we start this campaign? Although we fully understand that combating or organized crime is it's a goal that we accept, one that we obviously support, and that use of encryption may introduce difficulties to police authorities, we have very clear ideas about the perils of the proposed approach. In fact, without breaking the security features of today Internet solutions, there is no known technological solution to the EU's stated goals. It's impossible to implement it in the way they present it. That is, they say that besides users, only authorities authorized by judges could access the communication. In fact, the only known solutions to fulfill that goal would be to weaken encryption, as is the case in China, for example, and only allow users to use encryption that is weak and breakable by any adversary with adequate computational power. The second option would be to make the encryption keys available to a third party, the third party that would then, by order of the judge, reveal the communications in clear, and that the only way to implement it is to give these keys to the third party, the platforms that run the applications. And finally, the third way to implement that is by giving authorities access to user devices, the data of the users in the devices before they are encrypted, what is known as backdoors, and has been fully shown that it compromises the security of users' devices. So the practical results of the Commission intends are equivalent to making the use of encryption and security software mostly useless, and since there would always be at least a third party, in general a platform, able to access users' communications in clear, and that would transform those third parties by design in security trust parties with all powers over user communications. Whatever the kind of communication would be, those communications, okay? That would result in a major weakening of Internet security, okay? Because all used platforms would always have access to users' communication. That would also open the door, and that's very important, because I think it's the following intention, to export to those platforms the role of automated analysis of the communications in search of suspect content, okay? And all that, as Olaf told, would prevent criminals from using encryption, since technology is known and widely available and implemented. So that's why we were quite horrified by the intentions of the Commission and decided to start the campaign. I can tell you later what we did in detail and with whom we have engaged to reach the goal of trying to combat this. Okay. I think for the moment it's okay.
Thank you, Jose, for that. And now, Fred.
Yeah.
What did you do there?
Yeah, Frédéric Taes here. I'm president of the Belgian chapter of Internet Society. In the WATS, there are two phases. We started gradually, first to support globally the encryption, the Global Encryption Coalition, a very good initiative from Internet Society. We were inspired by the Switzerland chapter in that way. We have supported also the initiative from Portugal chapter about European Commission, and we co-signed the letter, and we make also advocacy and education on Internet about encryption, what it means. And then it has go full speed a few months ago, because there was a project of law, and it is still a project of law, to weaken encryption in Belgium, with the purpose that Belgium will serve as example in Europe to weaken encryption and to come with backdoors. From the minister, it's for more clarity. We are spying in all sectors, post, mail, telephony, so also internet, and it will only be on request on magistrature, on justice, and from authorities. And we have taken then different initiatives. First, with Global Encryption Coalition to make an open letter to the government, and that has been effective. I have to say that we had really good signatures of this letter from professors of universities, from different business companies to support that, and from different Internet Society chapters over the world. So this message was really a catch from the government. And then we approach also the media. And from the media, we have experienced that, we talk later, but encryption is something difficult. So we more address privacy first to open the debates. And then we had more than 30 publications in different newspapers, etc. And from this channel, we even had an answer from the Belgian government, from the person in charge of digitalization and protection of individual rights against this law. So that's a good achievement, but it's not finished. We really feel that encryption is a long journey because we see that here and there in the different countries. And so being a big internet family is really good to help us each other for that. And my personal motivation for that, I'm currently information security officer in big companies. I see what's happening with the data, with the different security holes and all the danger that people cannot realize. Another person who really active is our DPO in this project, Data Protection Officer. It's a role existing in Europe. And he contacted the different organisms, data protection authorities, what has been named, what is their standpoint, also to know what's the legislation process, to know where we can leverage and intervene to make a law to be stopped, a project of law to be stopped against weakening encryption and against encryption. That's in a nutshell what we have done and my personal motivation. And I can talk later about the how in more details.
Yeah, this is as I promised, a sort of broad set of approaches, all somewhat local, and I think that it's one of the strengths of us as a community, as the Internet Society community, that we can organize sort of at every level. As a European, I sort of use the word subsidiarity in that context. Take the measures at a scale where you can actually impact them. And what I like about the conversation that we have now is that you have you already indicated sort of that you also learned from the experience of others in the ecosystem, of all the other organizations that in different nations, but perhaps also in your own nation, are working on these issues, and you manage to find each other and learn from each other. And that's also the reason why we as the Internet Society became part of the Global Encryption Coalition, because this is such a big topic. This is something that we cannot do on our own. We need a lot of people to make this, keep this on the agenda and keep a prevailing counterforce against the political frames that are out there. So that's sort of a part of the how question. Part of the how question, and I think you already touched upon that a little bit, Theorose. But how do you make it so that you reach people's hearts? Because it's really, really, really a technical type of thing, and before you know it, you are talking about Diffie-Hellman, or you're talking about elliptic curves and the number of bits that are involved. And at the moment you did that, I just saw already a few people leaving this chat because of that. So how do you capture people's hearts when talking about encryption? Jose, do you want to start, or Theorose?
All right, so I think I'll start. Well, I think that to touch somebody's heart, of course, it's hard work. But for starters, I don't have any technical background. I think the last time we had this conversation at another event, I was just telling everybody that for you to be interested in something, you just have to give it a try. Because if I look back, I wouldn't have even started this encryption journey. I started from being part of the ISOG fundamental courses. I did that, and I just told myself that, okay, I didn't really like the idea, but I wanted to see what it is because the name looks so big and I just want to know what the name actually stands for. But the point is that why would I go through all the sessions and all the time and just not do anything with it? So even with the little that I was taught at the fundamental, I still ran with that. So first of all, it's not really about how big or how whatever, how technical it looks, but it's about how best you are able to take the message. So do you love what you're going to do? Do you believe in what you're going to do? So I think that that's what we did at the Ghana chapter for this year's encryption event. It was led by the chair for youth and communication, Lily Shea, and supported by other chapter members as well. We have identified that, okay, yeah, everybody would be thinking the way I am thinking, and of course they would prefer to go into internet governance. I'm not saying that is bad. It's actually a good course. I took that, but that is easier to understand. When we talk about internet and we talk about governance, that's easier to understand and easily to go to than encryption, because even the name itself sounds technical. So how do we make people understand that it's not technical, it's for everyone? So far as you are an internet user, so far as you are planning to be on the internet, have social media platform to chat with people on the internet, you need encryption. How do you do that? So we started with a lot of things. We open an email list. We open up a forum where we ask people what they think encryption is. We give people opportunity to even try to host such events in their various regions, and we took the drive. That's the essence of the regional event, that we went to every region, or not every, like 80% of the regions in Ghana. We try to organize little events and we explain it. So it's the essence of explanation, and I'm very happy with everybody that we went with, because it's not, they are not just going because they have to go, they are going because they love it. If you see the passion, our pictures and videos are out there, you can always search for that. But if you see the video, you see the passion and the love that people are talking with, it wouldn't even occur to you to ask them, like, when you see me, would it ever occur to you that I'm not technical? No, because I talk about it, I teach that with Internet Society, and I do a lot of things. Everybody thinks I'm technical, but I'm not, because I love it and I want to know more about it, and I'm really particular about my safety online. So I think it's just about the passion and what you are committed to. And again, just before I wrap up this one, when we talk about commitment, it's just how willing you are. Of course, I look out to what other chapters are doing as well to learn how they're going about it. I've subscribed to the Encryption Coalition mailing list. I follow the conversation. I follow the social media platform to see what they are doing. I try to read about it, to research, just so that when I meet somebody and I'm talking to them about it, I don't have to have all the facts, but I try to understand it in the layman's point. And I think that's actually the best, because I wouldn't even look at it technical. I look at it easier in the easier version because of my background. So I think that is where it's just about standing for it, knowing that it is for your own safety and privacy, and that will sort it out.
Thank you, Theorose. Talking about understanding, just to the audience, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat box. They will be fed to us, and we will be able to address them in a little bit. Over to Frédéric. How do you make this a understandable and relatable topic?
Yeah, good question. First, we test that in smaller committees with our members, with our chapter members to get feedback. And the first feedback was only the word encryption and people are lost. We need to start to explain, like you did, Olaf, yourself, what is encryption before starting to talk to people. So we address that with a simple and stupid approach. More focused on privacy first, because privacy, everyone feels concerned, know what it is. There's scandal with Facebook, with many others on the place. And that was really the starting point also for the media. And then we take that as opportunity to explain that it's more than confidentiality, it's also integrity. I'll talk with my bank, someone cannot change the amount of the bank account who will receive money, and also digital signature. And we take that as an opportunity to explain what is encryption. The second point in the whole was to put people against their contradiction. We have even a politician here, our prime minister, who in the past firmly condemned the ideas to weaken encryption. He did that in the past, and so now we can take it back to today. Another example, we have GDPR, the regulation for data protection in Europe, asking for more and more security. And here we should open breach and holes in the security. That's contradiction. So different contradictions. That's the second axis. And the third one is the request of people for more security. People want more and more security today. And we have very good examples with ransomware. Ransomware is a way of using encryption. Even lawyers, Association of Lawyers in Belgium were hit by ransomware. Even the Prime Minister was spied himself without acknowledgement from authorities. And that's good to explain that cyber criminals will never respect if there is a law against encryption, they will use it. And if we open a hole, other cyber criminals can use it. And now the message is passing. And that's really our journey here.
Thank you. Which brings us to Jose. Same question, sort of same question. How did you make this relatable?
I think it's quite easy to explain people that, the secrecy and authenticity depends on keys, on encryption keys. And if those keys are shared with someone else, that someone else can access your data and can modify it and so on. So I think we, in the first phase, we intended to show mainly to politicians what they were they had at end if they weaken that all that process, because everything is dependent on the secrecy of those keys, and there's no alternative. If you want to give authorities under what judges decide or not, the way to do it is to have access to the keys. And if you have access to the keys, you can do whatever you want with the information. And I think also that it's important to show people that there is something equivalent to that in the mobile system, in the telephone system, where judges can ask for the conversation of suspects and so on. And because that is implemented by the way of the operator of the mobile system having the keys of the conversations. Okay, so and the internet, you would give access to those keys to every platform and so on. And it's quite understandable that would be a disaster, because you are not discussing with an incumbent mobile operator or two or three. You are discussing with lots and lots of platforms. Our main goal was to try to teach politicians, the members of the parliament, of the perils of those kind of laws, because maybe they don't understand it. And we made the first open letter that we sent to every member of the European Parliament, Portuguese member of the European Parliament, to every member of the Portuguese Parliament, and even some of the members of the European Parliament have asked the commissions for explanations. How do the Commission would implement that, and they did those requests based on our open letter. And then the same open letter was co-signed by 6 or 7 civil associations, not for profit, that defend human rights and things like that. And finally, as our Prime Minister was the coordinator of the European Council, we wrote an open letter also with the help of the Swiss chapter and the Netherlands chapter, and ask for all European chapters to co-sign that open letter and send it to our Prime Minister as coordinator of the European Commission. And we have been lucky, because the Netherlands, Swiss chapter, the Belgian chapter, the Catalonia, Deutschland, Finland, Norway, Slovenia, Spain, and United Kingdom chapters co-signed the letter sent to our Prime Minister. But for the moment, what happened is there's no initiative in Portugal to put forward a legislation like the one we see in Belgium. But I think it will come because it's in the mud. And we have been able even to publish the open letter in several newspapers, and we have tried to make the more awareness possible for the people that is going to take a decision later. The example of the Belgian chapter, when the results they got recently, it's maybe hope for the future, because some people understand the problem that it's not you don't need to go deeply technically. You show them only that having the keys is having access to information to be able to modify it, to be able to sign it, and so on.
Thank you.
So they understand the problem.
Yeah. So we're almost at the end of the session. 2 more minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. But there are a couple of questions in the chat which unfortunately I cannot get to, because I do want to ask you an important question, namely, what would be your advice? What is your main learning from what you have done to other chapters? What can they learn from your work? What is your major advice? And please stick to about 30 seconds for that. Who wants to start? Frédéric, may I?
Yeah, okay, I can start. It's really when you have something reach the community. We had help from through Internet Society globally and with the other chapters to reach the community. Because internet is really a public media, not as the post or the telephony. It's a public, it's worldwide media.
Theorose?
Right, so I would say that safety is key. The internet is our home. Every chapter must make sure that all their members are safe online, and that starts with encryption. They have to take the battle. They have to make sure that safety is their #1 priority among everything. Thank you.
And finally, Jose.
You must try to persuade the people that's going to take decisions on the politicians, the parliament, members of the parliament, that you cannot weaken cryptography, or because that's critical for privacy and security, and well, it would be a major disaster if such legislation would pass.
Yeah, and you've given a good example on how to make those politicians aware. Thank you for that. With that, we are 20 minutes past the hour. That is a valid type of saying almost anywhere on the planet, except a few places. I would like to thank the panelists for their insightful and inspiring, I have to say, remarks on this important topic of encryption. And I hope it inspired some of you who are joining us today to also take action. And you've seen that action does not necessarily need to be writing to your or trying to influence a decision in Parliament. It can also be teaching. It can also be training. It can also be leading by example, so to speak. And I am very convinced that our community can all do those things. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention and close the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Fireworks, because it's a fair.